This is a man, Donald Trump, who's done more for everyone than anyone.
Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump.
We did more for the Hispanic community than any administration.
Nobody ever did more for Americans who love Cuba. I did more for Michigan auto workers.
Nobody in American politics has ever managed to turn a national birthday celebration into a personal embarrassment this completely, this publicly, and this quickly. Not even close. What Donald Trump tried to present as the biggest 4th of July celebration in 250 years of American history fell apart so badly, so visibly, and with so much momentum that by the time Jimmy Kimmel got behind his desk, the jokes were basically already sitting there waiting for him. All he had to do was say them out loud. And he did. The whole thing started with the poll numbers, because that is really where the story begins. Trump had reached the exact kind of place that someone like him cannot stand, the kind of place where crowd sizes, approval ratings, and public praise start turning against him all at once. For a man who seems to measure his worth by how big the room is, how loud the applause gets, and how many people say he is winning, those numbers were not just bad, they were personal.
He is now down to 34%. He has the same approval rating as Paul Blart Mall Cop. The Blart of the deal. Not only is Trump at his lowest point, he's also 2 points behind J.D.
34%, lower than at any point in his presidency. And Kimmel said it with this calm, almost clinical precision, like he was reading out test results nobody wanted to hear. Trump, the President of the United States, the man who calls himself one of the greatest leaders in American history, was polling at the same level as Paul Blart, a fictional mall security guard from a 2009 comedy movie. The audience laughed because how could they not? But then Kimmel added the part that barely even needed a punchline, because the fact was already doing all the work. Trump was 2 points behind J.D. Vance, his own vice president, the man he personally chose. The same guy who had spent years performing loyalty so completely that he basically turned himself into a political ventriloquist dummy was now more popular than a hand controlling him. Kimmel said he didn't even have a joke for that one. He just wanted to make sure Trump heard it.
Nobody in history did more for the farmers of our country than I did.
Nobody's done more for the Jewish people than I have.
We've done more for young parents in any administration.
We've done more for the senior than any other person. Nobody's done more for Puerto Rico than me.
You know, you're right. You've done enough. Let's get somebody else to take over.
A man sitting at 34% approval, with his own vice president polling higher than him, was always going to need a distraction. And Trump's distraction was apparently put his own face on American money. The Treasury Department had announced plans for a special $250 bill with Donald Trump on it to mark America's 250th anniversary, which immediately ran into one very obvious problem. Federal law has said for a very long time, and for very obvious reasons, that only dead people are supposed to appear on American currency. So naturally, instead of backing away from the idea, the administration handled it the way this administration handles any law that gets in its way. They moved to change the law. Kimmel held up the proposed design and said it made Trump the least popular bill since Cosby, and the audience absolutely lost it. Then he added the kind of line that almost feels too perfect to write, saying there was something strangely fitting about putting the face of the man blamed for record gas prices on the exact amount of money you now need just to fill one tank. But that was only the warm-up, because the real disaster was a concert. Trump's team had put together what they called the Great American State Fair, this huge 4th of July celebration on the National Mall, promoted like it was going to be the patriotic event of a generation. But when Kimmel read the lineup to the studio, the room went so quiet it almost felt respectful, like everyone was silently trying to process how embarrassing this had gotten. Milli Vanilli, with one member dead. C&C Music Factory, with one member also dead. Morris Day and The Time, except without Morris Day and without The Time, because both had refused. Young MC, except without Young MC, because he refused too. The Commodores, but without the original singers, and then without the replacement singers, because even the people brought in to replace the people who left ended up quitting. Trump had not only lost the artists, he had somehow lost the backup versions of the artists. And then came the Milli Vanilli part, which was almost too ridiculous to explain. The actual Milli Vanilli, or whatever remains of Milli Vanilli, had to release a formal statement saying they had never been asked to perform, would not be performing, and that anyone appearing under their name should be understood as a tribute act with no real musical or vocal connection to them. Kimmel stopped right there and asked a question everyone in the room was already thinking. How do you even pretend to be Milli Vanilli when Milli Vanilli spent her entire career pretending to be Milli Vanilli? Trump had failed to book the fake version of a fake band, and the crowd reacted with that very specific sound people make when they are not just laughing anymore, they are witnessing incompetence. So pure it almost becomes impressive, and the performers who stayed were not exactly saving the dignity of the event either. One of the remaining acts apparently forgot that public statements live forever and released a rant so wild that Kimmel did not even have to dress it up. He just read it in that calm, careful voice people use when they know the material is already doing all the damage by itself. Kimmel will be watching, the audience will be watching, and honestly, the truth will probably be funnier than whatever the White House press office tries to spin before sunrise.